for doing.
Thank you, Tucker, and
For,
thank you for really what a remarkable statement you just made, and how many important things you said.
well, it's just bad, and it doesn't need to be bad. And I think this is one place where I do agree with the neocons. Some of whom are, they are ethno-narcissists, a lot of them, but they're right when they say, if the national conversation is all about Jews and people are all mad, like, that's just not good for anybody. I don't think that's good. We need to de-escalate and pull back. We need to de-racialize this right away, and make it sane. And otherwise, what's going to happen? Anyway, enough lecture for me.
No, but it's an important point, because the whole issue about Israel is not about Jews, by the way.
Exactly.
The Jews in the United States completely divided on this issue, as are non-Jews. This is not about Jews. This is about a state and what it's doing right now. Its history and American interest. And I think you said that all extremely clearly.
So do you think there's been a lot of talk today about another war with Iran? Do you think that that's coming?
I think it's very likely, because Netanyahu is absolutely intent, and he has been intent for nearly 30 years. It's nearly 30 years since he first became prime minister in 1996, in dragging the United States into a prolonged war with Iran. And he dragged the United States, and it's a shame that the United States government went along with it, but he dragged the United States into a war with Iran just recently, and it's extremely dangerous. And of course he wants to do it again. It's been part of Netanyahu's policy to pull the United States into repeated wars. This is why this whole relationship is so completely dysfunctional. Netanyahu, back in 1996, with American political advisors, actually came up with a document called Clean Break. Clean Break is a very strange but very clear statement of what has trapped the United States for nearly 30 years. Clean Break says, well, Israel's never going to compromise with its Palestinian Arab population in its midst and in the Palestinian lands. It's going to control all of those lands, and it's going to control or expel or kill or ethnically cleanse the Palestinian population. And that's going to create unrest, and it's going to create a militant reaction. And then what Clean Break says is, yes, that's going to happen, and we will go to war against any other supports opposition to Greater Israel, that is, Israel's control over all of Palestine. And there's just one footnote to that. When Netanyahu said that we will go to war, what he meant was the United States will go to war for us. So Netanyahu has been the great champion of pushing America into endless wars for the last 3 decades. He was the big cheerleader of the Iraq War. People may remember that, or they can refresh their memories. A devastatingly wrong war sold on completely phony pretenses that Netanyahu cheerled. And one can even go online and find his testimony to Congress in October 2002 about how wonderful this war is going to be and how it's going to lead to a breakout of freedom throughout the Middle East. He's full of it, and he's been full of it for nearly 30 years. But he has had many wars in sight that he has actually dragged the United States into. The war in Syria, which goes on and started with Obama in 2011, ordering or assigning the CIA the task to overthrow the Syrian government, was again at Netanyahu's and Israel's behest, absolutely extraordinary. The ongoing wars in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq, the recent so-called 12-day war with Iran, which was a disgrace and a great danger. Even the wars in East Africa, in Sudan, in Somalia, and in Libya were pushed by Netanyahu as that we need to overthrow regimes that support opposition to Israel's control over the Palestinians. And in 2011, just to take another case, because Obama did double duty that year, he went to war with Syria in a completely weird way of assigning the CIA the overthrow. But he also launched a war against Libya to overthrow Muammar Gaddafi. This was the Obama-Hillary Clinton teamwork to drag America into more wars.
Let me tell you this story, okay? When I was way more younger, I have always thought that the government was out for world peace, and they wanted everyone to live in peace, to live in unity, to live in togetherness. I thought that the whole freedom and liberty and peace that they preach on their social media and their mainstream media were the same principles that they practice. That was what I thought when I was way more younger and naive. But when I grew up and started watching social media and saw all what they did, my whole opinion or perception about them totally changed. Now, let me be clear. The people are nice. At least some of them are very nice people. But the government is a very warmongering one. All they do is start up or stir up chaos and war in other places around the world. And if you are sitting there thinking that they will not invade Iran, then I am urging you to think again, because I think that the invasion of Iran is just a matter of time. It's just when, not if. We've passed if. Now we are on when. They will do it. They are just putting their ducks in a row. They will do it. From the incident in Libya, I came to understand that war was more profitable to them than peace. Because if a government or if people are telling you that they stand for peace, they will not do things that will cause chaos. They will not do things that will provoke war, isn't it? How can someone say we stand for peace and all they do signal war? Isn't that a contradiction? Now, if they thought that they wanted peace in Africa, or the people in Libya were being persecuted by their leader, Muammar Gaddafi, was taking out Muammar Gaddafi the solution to that? At least we all saw what happened in Iraq and also in Afghanistan when they went in and toppled the government and set in chaos. And until now, those countries have known no peace. Now let's come back to Libya. If there's one thing I have to say as an African about Libya, is that I was really, really angry and disgusted about the whole event in Libya. And to think about it, that it was Barack Obama who set everything in motion, just make matters even worse. I thought that a person like Obama, who is from an African origin, will understand that Africa has suffered a lot from Western hands, and invading an African country and toppling their government wasn't a wise thing to do. I would have thought so. I thought so. But I was totally wrong. I was totally wrong. Obama went in there, took out Gaddafi, dragged him like a dog. Now, let me be clear. Gaddafi was no saint. Okay, let's be clear. Gaddafi had his own skeletons in his closet. Okay, Gaddafi did things that many people thought were despicable. That is true. All those things are true. He was an authoritarian. That is true. Nevertheless, he kept the peace. Okay, he kept the peace. Libya was one of the best countries in Africa. In fact, it was like an African dream. Many countries in Africa wanted to be like Libya. Many people in Africa went to Libya for greener pasture. People could move to Libya to work and earn money to support their families back in other countries. But that wasn't good enough for the Westerners. They had to see Libya fall. They had to destroy Libya, whatever it cost. They never wanted something great in Africa. And they thought to themselves that Libya must go. We cannot let other nations in Africa see Libya as a shining example to follow. No. Libya has to go. Gaddafi has to go. And they set their sinister act in motion. And all we knew was that Libyans were fighting against themselves. They were tired of Muammar Gaddafi, and they want him to go. And as toothless as Africa or the African Union is, they stood by and watched. They just stood by and watched. Libya was ramshackle. Libya was totally ruined. Libya was destroyed. And now Libya has two governments. The infighting and the division is not something that we could talk about today. And you know that after all this, right, the oil companies benefited. They benefited, right? Now they could drill with no accountability. Yeah. The instability in Libya benefited America and their European partners. They benefited enormously from destabilizing Libya. While we Africans, we lose an African dream. You see? It's really sad, isn't it? So sad.